Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Tandorio TD051 GMT. This watch is available from TandorioWatch.com for $111 US, which is €106. So firstly, let's look at the box that the watch comes in, and then I'll talk you through the specifications of the piece. So the watch comes in a cardboard watch box, which is protected by this white cardboard outer sleeve. One removes the sleeve, and as you can see, the lid to the cardboard box is branded with the Tandorio emblem and Tandorio text logo. So one removes the lid. Inside we have a foam protective panel, and the watch sits in the base inside a foam cutout panel on a piece of foam, so it is well protected in shipping from any damage. I think it's acceptable to use a basic cardboard box like this, bearing in mind this is a low tier price point piece at €106. With regards to the items that come with the watch, you only get this item, which is the owner's instruction manual. Clear, concise diagrams. The instructions are in English and it details the operation of the movement used, which is the Seiko NH34A automatic. I would like to see Tandorio include a plastic warranty card with the watch, because that is absent. But however, I'm pleased to report that the watch is covered by a 2-year international warranty, which is very good. Often low-tier Chinese brands only have 12 months of international warranty at this price point, €106, so to get 2 years of warranty is good and they deserve credit for it. So with regards to the specifications of the piece, the Tandorio TD051 GMT is clearly an homage to the Rolex Explorer 2, so similar proportions to the Explorer 2. We have a 40mm case diameter. We have a lug-to-lug measurement of 47.7mm, a thickness of 13mm, and a lug width of 20mm. The Jubilee style bracelet tapers from 20mm at the lugs down to 16mm at the glide lock style clasp. Now I'm going to be critical of the glide lock style clasp. It is good to see a glide lock style clasp used at this price point, but however it is sterile and unsigned, which is a clear cross-cutting measure. So, I would like to see Tandorio improve this. They could sign it with the T emblem, or alternatively Tandorio text logo, because that would further enhance it. But on a positive note, it does have a beautiful luster to the brass satin finish outer sections of the body, flawless mirror polishing to the centre, and that complements the flawless mirror polishing to the flanks. We have a flat sapphire crystal with clear AR coating on the underside, and the clear anti-reflective coating does an outstanding job of reducing the glare and the highly reflective nature of the flat sapphire crystal. The Cyclops magnifier is also made from sapphire crystal with AR coating on the underside, and it has the correct 2.5 times magnification. The alignment is correct, it's not too far to the left or right, and it's not too high or too low above the date window, and it does a good job of magnifying the black Arabic numerals on the white date wheel. The dial is matte white, contrasting black minute ticks on the chapter ring. Quality of the printing is good. The Tandorio text logo is nice and sharp and crisp. The font isn't too thick and blurry, and the text at 6 o'clock is also nice and crisp and clearly legible. However, there's too much text on the dial. Often it's the case with low-tier Chinese brands. They have a tendency to over-brand the dial with unnecessary text and specification, and this is an example of that, because we have 4 lines of text: GMT, automatic, water resistant, and 20 bar/200 meters. So they could delete water resistant, because it is a given this piece is water resistant, and it states 200 meters on the dial, which clearly refers to the fact it is water resistant. We do not need to see it on the dial. This is not a dive piece, so it's negligible information to put that it's water resistant. It's a GMT piece. So they could delete that and reduce it to 3 lines of text versus 4. The other area they've got on the dial is it says 20 bar/200 meters. The industry standard is either to print the water resistance in bar or alternatively meters, but not both. 20 bar is 200 meters, but we don't need to see both. The industry standard, the convention is to have meters and feet for the water resistance. For example, 200 meters equals 660 feet. That would look better rather than having 20 bar/200 meters, which is the same thing. So I think they could amend that, delete water resistant, and also change the text on the dial to 200 meters equals 660 feet rather than having 20 bar/200 m. But however, this is subjective. For the majority of collectors, this might not be a problem. Now, with regards to the handset, often low-tier Chinese brands have a tendency to undersize and underproportion the handset. So, if you look at the minute hand, which is a pencil hand, you can see the tip of it does extend to the minute ticks on the chapter ring. So the length is correct, but it does look too slender. It looks too thin, for this dial size. So I would like to see Tandorio improve the sizing of the hands. The GMT hour hand, which is contrasting orange with a large arrowhead tip, is the correct length and the correct proportion, so that looks okay. But the Mercedes hour hand looks too short and it looks too small for this dial size. The pencil minute hand also looks too slender. So they need to make the Mercedes hour hand and the pencil minute hand larger, and that would look better, because the maxi dial layout, which this is an homage to the Explorer 2, that does look correct. The proportions of the indices on the dial look good, but the hands just look undersized for this dial size. But legibility is good because the handset is black, and also the indices which are applied are also black as per the Explorer 2, which this is an homage to. So legibility is good, AR coating works well. So with regards to the bezel, solid 316L grade stainless steel, and it's got a nice sunburst radial finish to it, and I really like the sunburst finish of the bezel. Credit where credit is due, they have done a very good job of finishing the bezel. It has a nice satin finish to it. Rather than being brushed satin finish, it has this radial sunburst pattern to it, and it does look very good. Quality of the engraving of the Arabic numerals is very good, and also the triangles for the other hour markers are very good on the 24-hour bezel. Font is clearly legible. They've done a good job of inlaying the black paint into the engraving, and the engraving is high definition and sharp and crisp. So they've done a very good job of the stainless steel bezel. Nice mirror polish chamfer to it, and that's very good because the mirror polishing is very good. It deletes the sharp edge on the top edge of the bezel. The flat sapphire crystal has a bevel on the edge of it which projects above the top edge of the bezel, so that's good. I like the way it catches the light, and the edge of the bezel is mirror polished to a good standard. Finishing to the head of the piece is good at this price point. Brushed satin finishing the tops of the lugs has a nice luster, and that contrasts with the mirror polishing to the flanks. Nice mirror polish bevel to the edge of the case, and that deburrs it, so no sharp edges to the top edge of the case, which marks the transition between the brushed satin finish tops of the lugs and the mirror polish flanks. Crown guards are correctly proportioned and mirror polished to a good standard, and the undercuts to the flanks do not have any sharp edges, so it's been deburred and chamfered very well. Four corners to the tips of the lugs do not have sharp corners, so quality of the finishing is good. Brushed satin finishing, mirror polishing, deburring and chamfering are all very good. So let's look at the bracelet in detail. Jubilee style bracelet which has the correct taper, 20/16. Now, the end links do feel stiff, they kink, so you have to manually articulate them. They don't freely flow into position, so that's a negative. They do feel rather stiff. They don't feel loose, but the other negative is they do have lateral, longitudinal, side to side, up and down play. Let's check the other side for continuity. Again, feels stiff. They don't articulate freely. You have to manually articulate the link into position, so they don't move themselves. The other thing is they do have excessive play, lateral, longitudinal, side to side and up and down play. However, we're not looking at a €200 price point piece. One has to be magnanimous about some quality control and build quality issues. This is €106. It is to be expected. Now, the bracelet is very sloppy. It rattles. It does use screw pins, which is good, rather than the cost-cutting measure of push pins, so I'm pleased to see Tandorio didn't use that cost-cutting measure. But however, every single one of the Jubilee style links has excessive longitudinal, lateral, side to side and up and down play. I'll just check the other side for continuity. Again, it's a very sloppy bracelet. Too much articulation and play, lateral, longitudinal, side to side, up and down play. Play in every direction. And it really shouldn't have this amount of play, bearing in mind it uses screw pins rather than push pins. On a positive note, the links do articulate freely. They don't feel stiff or kink, which is good. I'll check the other side. Again, articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink. In terms of finishing, the brushed satin finishing to the outer links is good. Beautiful luster to it, nice fine grained finish to the top side and the underside, and that contrasts with the flawless mirror polishing to the flanks. Proportions of the Jubilee style links are good. The centre links are mirror polished to a good standard, so they deserve credit. The brushed satin finishing is good, the mirror polishing is good, and no sharp edges to the top edge or the lower edge of the flank. So the positives of the bracelet are: it articulates freely, it does not pull arm hairs, which is good, and it doesn't have sharp edges, so it does feel comfortable on wrist, but it does rattle because it's sloppy. But I'm pleased to see the finishing in terms of the mirror polishing and the brushed satin finishing is good. No sharp edges, so it's been deburred and chamfered well, and it doesn't pull arm hairs. So although it is sloppy and does have too much play and it rattles, it is a very comfortable bracelet, and the taper is perfection personified at 20:16. Right, so let's look at the glide lock style clasp. This is well finished. No sharp edge to the top edge or the lower edge, which is good. The undercut to the flanks doesn't have a sharp edge, so they've deburred it very well, but the negative is the four corners have sharp corners. They need to be deburred better. These lower sharp corners are very sharp, and that's something to bear in mind, but the undercut to the flank doesn't have a sharp edge, and the lower edge and the top edge are deburred very well. So the flip lock works on it very well, opens freely. The interior is well finished. The centre section of the left hand portion is matte B blasted effect, and the outer portion and the right hand portion are mirror polished on the top side, underside and flanks. No sharp edges. The centre section doesn't have sharp corners, which is good. So let's check the hinge pins. Left hand hinge pin has excessive lateral, longitudinal, side to side, up and down play, so it clicks and rattles. Centre hinge pin articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink, but significant side to side play, it clicks, it rattles. Lateral, side to side, up and down, longitudinal play. Just bear with me, I'll put my glove behind it to show you better with the camera focused on it. It clicks. Significant side to side play, poor tolerances, and you can hear and feel the clicking sound. It's bad. Let's check the right hand hinge pin. Feels nice and tight, so this one is good. Articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink, doesn't have excessive play, actually feels very good. Interference fit is good, there's nice friction. So they've done a good job with this one on the clasp. The right hand hinge pin feels good, nice and tight, doesn't have excessive play. Centre hinge pin is dreadful because it really does have too much side to side play, it clicks. And the right hand hinge pin has play in all directions. Sorry, the left hand hinge pin has play in all directions. That's sloppy. My concern with the left hand hinge pin and the centre hinge pin is long term durability, but again, this is to be expected at €106. We're not looking at a €200 price point piece in the low tier. You are going to see this kind of quality control, builds quality and finishing issues at this price point. I am pleased to see this one on the right is nice and tight. This feels good. So that they've done a very good job of that. Now, on a positive note, this has a glide lock style clasp, as you can see. And I want to give due credit to Tandorio here because this is actually a very good glide lock style clasp. It articulates nice and smoothly, up and down. It doesn't feel too tight or too stiff. You don't have to really force it to manipulate it, to deploy it or shorten it. The other thing I like about it is it clicks in with a nice positive click and it deploys with a nice positive click in every single one of the clicks. So it actually works very well. To put this into perspective, it is as good as the Watch Jive's glide lock style clasp which I reviewed, and that was also very good. This does work very well. Nice positive click, deploys with a nice positive click. You don't have to really push it hard with your index finger or thumb to deploy it, and you don't have to push it hard with your index finger or thumb to get it to snap back in. Doesn't have too much play in it, so the quality control, builds quality and execution of it are all very good. And I like it. It's one of the better glide lock style clasps I've experienced, and they really deserve credit because to see a glide lock style clasp at this price point of €106 with this quality is good. It's a credit to Tandorio. They have done a good job of it and it works very well. I like the way it snaps in and deploys with nice loud audible clicks. Feels good. And on a positive note, it does snap shut with a nice positive click, and the flip lock closes with a nice positive click. They just need to deburr the corners because the corners are sharp. They are the real QC issues here. The four corners feel very sharp. The lower ones are very sharp. But on a positive note, no sharp edges to the edges on the outer body and also the undercut to the flank. So it is correctly proportioned and it is well finished. Right, so let's test the screw down crown execution. Solid 316L grade stainless steel crown, coin edge finished. Large mirror polished chamfer to it, so that deletes the sharp tips to the coin edge teeth. Now, mirror polished domed cap, but the negative is a cost-cutting measure here because it's sterile and unsigned. I would like to see a T for Tandorio, the emblem engraved or embossed, because that would further enhance it. But again, one has to be magnanimous. This is €106. You are going to see some cost-cutting measures at this price point, such as a sterile crown. It would look better with a T emblem engraved or embossed, but however, that's to be expected. So let's test the screw down crown execution. 200 meters of hermetic seal is strong specification. Bearing in mind this is a GMT piece, not a dive piece. They could have made it 100 meters. The crown feels smooth, but it does feel very stiff. There is a lot of friction. The friction is caused by two things. The friction between the stainless steel crown rubbing against the thread of the stainless steel crown tube. So they could improve upon the quality control, build quality and tolerances of the screw down crown, improve the machining of the threads on the internal thread of the stainless steel crown and the external thread of the stainless steel crown tube. It is possible at this price point to get it silky smooth. Steel Dive do it at this price point. In fact, they do it at a lower price point of €80 on the SD 1953, which is the Submariner date homage I previously reviewed. So if Steel Dive can do it at €80, there is no excuse for Tandorio not doing it at €106. But it does unscrew okay. It just feels stiff. It doesn't feel rough or gritty, but you really have to turn it with a lot of torsion, a lot of force in order to get it to unscrew. The friction is also caused by the rubber O-ring gaskets. So there's two rubber O-ring gaskets, one inside the stainless steel crown and a second rubber O-ring gasket inside the stainless steel crown tube itself, and the two hermetic seals provide 200 meters of water resistance. So there's friction from the rubber O-rings rubbing against the winding stem, and also internally the crown rubber O-ring rubbing against the end of the crown tube, and all of that friction adds up, because it's also compounded by the stainless steel to stainless steel threads rubbing against each other with a lot of friction due to the poor tolerances. So it does feel stiff, but it does unscrew okay. So we can now manually wind the Seiko Caliber NH34A to its maximum 41-hour power reserve. No discernible difference between the 34A and the 35A. When you are manually winding, you can feel the tension in the mainspring gradually building up to its maximum 41 hours. Feels nice and smooth. It's something I like about the NH34A. It feels very good to manually wind. Nice and smooth. You can feel the tension building up. Pulling it out to the first click position is the quick set date complication, and also the GMT hour hand quick set complication. So when you rotate the crown clockwise in the date setting position, as you can see, it advances the contrasting arrowhead tip of the GMT hour hand. So it clicks. It doesn't feel smooth. Each GMT hour clicks around the GMT bezel, and it's indexed very nice. It's got a nice positive clicking action to it. The alignment is correct, and I like it. It feels very good. The negative is, because it's driven off the date complication, you can only rotate the GMT hour hand quick set clockwise only. When you rotate the crown anti-clockwise, that advances the date. So in the date setting position, rotating the crown anti-clockwise advances the quick set dates. As you can see, feels exactly the same as the NH35A. Nice positive indexing. I like the positive clicking each day of the month clicks over. The 2.5 times magnification Cyclops magnifier does a good job of magnifying both the singles and the doubles, and the font is correct. It's not too thick or blurry. It's nice and sharp and crisp and high definition. Legibility is good. The alignment is good, both of the singles and the doubles. They're not too far to the left or the right of the date window. They're bang on the centre, which is good. They're not too high or too low either. And the legibility is good. You can clearly read the singles and also the doubles. So no discernible difference between the 34A and the 35A. The quick set date complication feels exactly the same. Very good. Putting it out to the second click position hacks the movement. If you look at the second hand, you can see it's now stopped dead, so it's possible to set the time precisely to the second with the Caliber NH34A. So now in the time setting position. Light resistance to the gearing, minimal friction to it, feels nice and smooth, both clockwise and anti-clockwise, and you can also rotate the GMT hour hand through the 24 hours by cycling through the 12 hours as usual, as you can see. So if you want to move the GMT hour hand anti-clockwise, you can do it in the time setting position. So light resistance to it, feels very good, feels very smooth. And minimal back play. There is some slight slack you have to take up, so when you rotate the crown clockwise and anti-clockwise, there isn't an immediate response. You have to take up some very slight slack, which is a characteristic of the NH34A. But however, once you become accustomed to it, it does feel good to set the time. Pushing it back in, it's got a nice positive click, and that restarts the movement. You can see the second hand begins to sweep around the dial at the characteristic 3 Hz sweep. So let's test screwing the crown back down. Instant thread pickup. So there's a perfect interface between the internal thread of the stainless steel crown and the external thread of the stainless steel crown tube. But however, again, it does feel very stiff. So you've really got to turn it with a lot of force. You've got to get good purchase with your index finger and thumb and really give it a good hard turn in order to get the threads to pick up and get the crown to screw down. It doesn't feel silky smooth. It doesn't feel like a light screw down crown. It feels like a heavy screw down crown with a lot of friction. So you've really got to turn it with a lot of torsion. But however, it does screw down okay. And 200 meters is strong specification at this price point. So it works okay, but there's room for refinement. There's room for improvement with regards to the tolerances of the machining of the threads. Right, so I'll give you a wrist shot and you can see how it fits on my 8-inch wrist. Now, I haven't sized the bracelet, and I'm pleased to report that it does fit my 8-inch wrist. As you can see, I can easily slide 2 fingers beneath the bracelet and clasp at all times, and that is with a glide lock style clasp on maximum extension. So if you have a larger wrist of 8 inches plus, you're going to have no problems whatsoever. Plenty of removable links. This Jubilee style bracelet has enough removable links to be sized from 6 inches minimum up to 8 inches maximum, as you can see. And bear in mind that is with a glide lock on maximum extension. There is 1.5 links of extension adjustment on it, so you could remove it. You could size it from 8 down to 7.5, alternatively 7 down to 6.5, for example. Plenty of adjustment on it. Now, taper is good. Perfection personified. 20 to 16 is the industry standard for good reason. It is the perfect taper for a 40mm head of the piece. I want to give credit to Tandorio here because they've got the proportions of the head of this piece bang on. This is 40mm, so nice wrist presence. It will fit you if you have a 6 to 7 inch wrist or a 7 to 8 inch wrist respectively. Doesn't feel top heavy, feels very well balanced on the Jubilee style bracelet. It's 151 grams, which is just fractionally above the sweet spot of 150. I often refer to 150 grams as being the sweet spot for 40mm heads of the pieces because it doesn't feel top heavy. It doesn't sit on the wrist like a slab of 316L grade stainless steel. The bracelet, the clasp, and also the head of the piece feel very well balanced. At 151, bear in mind that is with all the links in the Jubilee bracelet, it feels comfortable to wear for long periods of time, such as 8 to 12 hours per day. So, feel good factor is good, comfort level is good. I like the radial brushed satin finishing to the bezel, the way it catches the light and refracts it. That is absolutely gorgeous. Nice mirror polished bevel to the edge. They've done a very good job of the bezel. It looks very good. Jubilee bracelet has beautiful luster to it, to the outer satin links. The mirror polished centre links also look very good. So the bracelet, although it is sloppy and it rattles, it does feel very comfortable. No sharp edges, doesn't pull arm hairs, and it does look good. Rolex do not make the Explorer 2 on a Jubilee bracelet. They only make it on the Oyster bracelet, but I think it actually looks very good with the Jubilee style bracelet, an Explorer 2 homage piece. It works very well. Mirror polishing to the flanks looks good, nice curved undercut, and I think the quality of the finishing to the head of the piece is very good at this price point, so feel good factor is good. Legibility is good with the black indices and black Mercedes handset, contrasting well with a matte white dial. So, AR coating works well, 2.5 times magnification on the Cyclops magnifier works well. 47.7 lug to lug measurement is just a fraction below the perfect sweet spot of 48. 48 fits all wrist sizes, 6 to 7 and also 7 to 8. So at 47.7, it is only 0.3mm below the perfect lug to lug. Lug width is good at 20. And I like that this is 13mm. Now, I often refer to this in my previous reviews. 13mm is the sweet spot for 40mm pieces because it will easily slip underneath a shirt cuff if you wear business shirts. So this isn't too tall or too top heavy. It is perfectly 13mm. So they deserve credit. Tandorio have got the correct proportions. Lug to lug is good. Lug width is good. Perfection personified taper. Feels balanced. 13mm is the correct thickness. It's not too tall. I like it. I think it's a good looking piece. Comfort level good. Feel good factor good. So let's look at the case back. Solid 316L grade stainless steel case back. It's sterile. It does look like a Rolex Explorer 2 case back, which this is an homage to. Does have a bubble back case back profile to it. Now that is acceptable because this is NH34A powered, therefore it does need adequate clearance to clear the rotor. It is a thick movement with a GMT hour hand on the Canon pinion, and as you can see, the bubble back case back does look correctly proportioned. It's not too thick, and bear in mind it's 200 meters, not 100 meters, so it needs to be slightly thicker. Coin edge finishing to the circumference is well machined, no sharp edges to the teeth. The sterile centre section has longitudinal brush satin finishing, which is done to a good standard. The circumference also has mirror polishing to it, which is done to a good standard, and I like it. The quality of the finishing is good. It feels very smooth and comfortable against the wrist to wear for long periods of time, such as 8 to 12 hours per day. Then links are well finished. They're a good snug fit to the head of the piece. The underside to the head of the piece is also well finished. It's concentric CNC lathe tool machined, and no sharp edges to the undercuts to the flanks. The tips of the lugs have been deburred and chamfered very well. So quality of the finishing to the case back and the head of the piece is excellent. They deserve credit for this. Right, so let's do a lume test and we'll see how the lume performs when it's charged up to the absolute maximum. So as always, I'm going to use my 100 UV LED torch to charge it up to the absolute peak. Right, so that's now fully charged, and as you can see, initially it looks good. This uses C3 Superluminova, but however, you're going to see that it fades quickly because, unfortunately, Tandorio have used the cost-cutting measure of 3 to 4 layers versus 5 to 6. And you can immediately see that the indices are going to fade quickly. The exciter in the indices isn't glowing as brightly as the exciter in the handset. So that indicates that they've applied more layers of C3 Superluminova to the Mercedes handset and less layers on the applied indices, which is a disappointment. Now, in daylight conditions, the positive is the white tone on the indices and the white tone on the Mercedes handset matches. For example, it doesn't look cream on the hands or the indices. They both have the same white tone in daylight, so they've done a good job of matching the colour tone of the C3 in daylight. In the dark, it also has the same green tone. The C3 looks the same green tone on the indices and also on the handset, so the colour tone match is correct, but it's just they've used the cost-cutting measure. And often low-tier brands do this as a production cost-cutting measure in order to maximise profit margin per piece. So they use 3 to 4 layers on the dial or 3 to 4 layers on the handset versus 5 to 6, which is the industry standard and optimum performance. Now you can see both on the hands and also the indices, the exciter is now beginning to fade, and it will fade very quickly, exponentially with time. It's disappointing. I would like to see Tandorio improve this. I would like to see 5 to 6 layers because that would really give it optimum performance. It is fading. I would describe it as okay performance. It's what you would expect with 3 to 4 layers, but it's not as bright and as long lasting as 5 to 6. But one has to be magnanimous. This is €106. We're not looking at a €200 price point piece in the low tier. You are going to see this kind of cost cutting at this price point. Therefore, I think it's okay performance. Right, so let's discuss the movement used. You'll all be familiar with the Seiko NH34A automatic, which is made in Malaysia. So the NH34A has the same architecture as the NH35A, which is a reliable, well-proven workhorse movement. The only difference is there's a GMT complication added, which is driven off the date complication. So we have an additional GMT hour hand added to the Canon pinion. It has 24 joules, it runs at 21,600 vibrations per hour and a frequency of 3 Hz. It has hand winding and hacking, which use for complications, and a quick set date complication and a quick set GMT hour complication, which I've demonstrated. Both work well. 41 hour power reserve is perfectly acceptable. The stated accuracy is -20 to +40 seconds per day, so rather wide accuracy range. However, I'm pleased to report that the NH34As that Tandorio are using have been very well regulated. This one is running consistently at +6 seconds per day, which is excellent. +6 is well within the -20 to +40 stated accuracy, and it is very good accuracy for an NH34A, so they deserve credit. They're clearly regulating their movements well in 5 positions. To get +6 from an NH34A is good. No reliability issues whatsoever. The build quality, quality control and materials used in the NH34A are very good. It has the same proven reliability as the NH35A, which is based upon. Hand winding and hacking work well. Quick set GMT complication work well. It is the correct choice of GMT movement at this price point of €106. I like it. I like everything about the NH34A. So, last, I'll summarise the piece. What do I think of it overall? Well, when I'm considering reviewing a watch for my channel, the watch should meet two criteria. It should be both excellent quality and excellent value at the respective price point. So, low tier piece, price point is $111, which is €106. I'm going to declare it good quality, and I'm going to declare it okay value at €106. There are some things which need improving. For example, the build quality, quality control and tolerances of the sloppy bracelet, and also the end links, and also the play in the hinge pins. But however, one has to be magnanimous because this is €106. It is to be expected. On a positive note, the NH34A is a good movement at this price point. The AR coating is good. The C3 Superluminova needs 5 to 6 layers versus the 3 to 4, but it does perform okay. I think they've done a good job of this watch. The AR coating, the Cyclops magnifier is 2.5 times. They've got the basics right. Now, the thing they really need to improve upon is the screw down crown feels stiff. It works okay, but it's not silky smooth. There's room for refinement. Also, the cost-cutting measures of the sterile crown and the sterile Glidox style clasp. It needs to be signed with the Tandorio emblems. But it's a good watch for €106 and it's okay value at €106. So I'm going to recommend it to you for consideration. I hope you've enjoyed my review of the Tandorio TD051 GMT. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you for watching.